Hi guys, today I have a live swatch and review video of the OPI Lisbon Collection. I know this has been out for quite a while, but I thought I might as well still show you the whole collection and some possible similar polishes as well. I don't have any exact dupes apart from maybe one polish, but I will show you some similar polishes as well. The first polish that I have to show you is called Suzie Chases Portuguese. This is pretty much a classic white. I don't have any comparisons or dupes to show you for this one just because I don't have any other OPI whites, but I would say the most similar would be OPI Alpine Snow. This looks like maybe it has one drop of something a little bit more neutral in there, but it's pretty much just a classic white. The formula on this is okay. It's a little bit on the thin side, and it does require 3 coats for full opacity. It is easy to work with. It is not too thin that it's gonna kind of get everywhere and pool everywhere. It does dry very glossy, very shiny, but as always I would recommend adding a top coat. And the polish is fully opaque in 3 coats. It's a really nice classic white look. It's not like the whitest of whites, which I think makes it a little bit more wearable. The second polish from this collection is called Lisbon Once More OPI, and OPI describes this as a delicate pink, but I would say it's definitely still neutral. It's very similar to the first polish that I just showed you, but there's a couple extra drops of pink in there just to give it that little bit of color, but still very, very neutral, very, very light. The formula is slightly better on this one and it's fully opaque in just 2 coats. It's slightly thicker, which works out a lot better. Again, it dries really nice and glossy and it's easy to work with. This is the only polish in this video that has an actual dupe. On the left hand side I have Lisbon Once More OPI, and on the right I have Don't Bossa Nova Me Around, and honestly I cannot tell the difference between them. I love Don't Bossa Nova Me Around, so I'm happy I've got a second one, but really you don't need it, they're the same. The next polish that I have to show you is called Tagus in That Selfie, and OPI describes this as a bright pink. I definitely won't describe it as a bright pink. For me it's kind of a muted, neutral light pink. It's a really pretty color, definitely, but not a bright pink. The formula on this is really easy to work with. It's opaque in just 2 coats, similar to the previous formula. It is slightly thicker, which makes it easier to work with. It's slightly streaky on the first coat, but the second coat completely evens that out. And like the other polishes so far, they all dry nice and glossy. So on the left hand side I have Pink Friday, which is a little bit more cooler toned and definitely brighter. You'll see that Tagus in That Selfie in the middle is a little bit more neutral toned. And on the right side I have My Very First Knockwurst, which is a lot more neutral. I think if you would mix Pink Friday and My Very First Knockwurst, you would get Tagus in That Selfie. It's the perfect in between. Next up is You've Got Nata on Me, and OPI describes this as a provocative peach, and I actually agree with this. It's a really nice peachy tone, still again quite neutral, but I think peach or salmon is the perfect way to describe it. This has the same formula as the previous polish. It's a little bit thicker, which means it's easier to apply. Slightly streaky on the first coat, but the second coat completely covers it up and it dries nice and glossy. I don't think there's any reason to have this polish and the previous polish in the same collection because they are very, very similar. On the left I have a Great Opportunity, which is the similar kind of shade but just a little bit darker. In the middle is You've Got Nata on Me, and then on the right I have Humidity, which is a similar shade, but Humidity's actually got some silver shimmer in it, so no exact dupes this time. The next polish that I have to show you is called Made It to the 7th Hill, and OPI describes this as a soft golden rose polish. This is a really nice description of it. So this is more of a metallic kind of shimmery finish to it. And it is a beautiful rosy gold coppery colour. This has a really nice smooth formula. It's really even to apply, slightly sheer on the first coat where you can still see my visible nail line, but it is fully opaque on just 2 coats. I've compared it to Worth a Pretty Penny, which is on the right hand side. Made It to the 7th Hill is a lot more of a smoother and silkier kind of finish, whereas Worth a Pretty Penny is a little bit more shimmery. Next up, I have No Turning Back from Pink Street, and this is a really beautiful bright magenta pink. This has got such an easy formula. Again, it is slightly thicker than the rest of the formulas, which means it's a little bit more opaque, but also easier to use. It is nearly opaque in just 1 coat, but I will be applying a second coat just to even it out a little bit. Again, it dries really nice and glossy. It's really easy to use. I love the darker shades from OPI because they always have really nice, easy formulas. When I saw this polish, the first thing that I thought of was Kiss Me on My Tulips, which is on the right hand side. They are pretty much the same, however Kiss Me on My Tulips is a little bit more red toned, whereas this one, No Turning Back from Pink Street, has a little bit more blue tones in it. Next up, I have my favourite colour from the collection, and it's called We Seafood and Eat It, and OPI describes this as a lobster red. I feel like it's not a classic red, it's a little bit more pink toned than the normal classic red that OPI comes out with, and that's why I really love it. In that way, it's kind of unique to my collection. It has a really nice formula, similar to the previous one, slightly thicker but easier to work with. It's a really, really bright finish, and I love that this collection doesn't just have a classic red in it. This one's slightly more pink toned, whereas the next polish that I'll show you is slightly more orange toned. So for the comparison, I have Red Lights Ahead Wear on the left, I have We Seafood and Eat It in the middle, and Aloha from OPI on the right. Both of the other shades are just off reds. They're not classic reds, but they are both a little bit more orangey toned, whereas you can clearly see now that We Seafood and Eat It has that slight pink tone to it. Next up, I have a red Vive City, and this is described as a red by OPI, but if you see this in person, and also you can see it in this swatch video as well, it's much more orange toned than a classic red. I do really like this colour. I like, again, that there's just no classic red in it, even though OPI describes this as a normal red. The formula, again, is really easy to use, really easy to work with, slightly thicker, which means that it's more opaque, but really easy to work with as well, dries nice and glossy, and it's fully opaque in 2 coats. I have OPI on Collins Avenue on the left, and then a red Vive City in the middle, and a Roll in the Hague on the right. As you can see, it's more similar to a Roll in the Hague, which is a really nice bright orange shade. Next up, I have the shade Now Museum, Now You Don't, and this is a metallic red. It's a little bit on the burnt red side, a little bit orangey toned, which I think is a really unique shade for OPI. I haven't got anything like it. This is a really nice formula. It's opaque in 2 coats. It's definitely a little bit more opaque than the previous shimmery polish that we looked at. The second coat really deepens up that colour, and it's fully opaque in 2 coats. Like I said, I don't have anything similar in my collection to this polish, so I decided to compare it with I'm Not Really a Waitress, which is on the left hand side. You can see that's a lot more red toned, whereas Now Museum, Now You Don't from this collection is much more orangey. Next up, I have Sun, Sea and Sand in my pants, which is the bright yellow of the collection. OPI describes this as a sunshine yellow, but I felt like it was a little bit darker, a little bit more mustardy, as you'll be able to see from the swatch picture. For yellow, this has an incredible formula. It's the same as all the other polishes, where it's a little bit thicker, which means it's more opaque, but also it is fully opaque in just 2 coats. Really easy to work with, not streaky, only on the first coat, but the second coat completely sorts it out. I've compared it to I Just Can't Copacabana on the left hand side, which is much more mellow, lighter yellow. and on the right hand side the It color, which is a little bit more orangey toned. Next up, I have Closer Than You Might Belem, which OPI describes as a coastal sea green. I think that's a great description of it. It's a really nice turquoise shade, kind of that mix. This is not the most unique shade from OPI, as you'll see in just a minute. The formula is really easy to use, easy to work with, same as all the other polishes from the collection. It's fully opaque in just 2 coats and it dries really nice and glossy. So the shades I have compared it to is Thanks a Wind Million on the left hand side, which is a little bit darker, a little bit more muted, and then Mermaid's Tears, which is on the left, which is very similar, but I feel like it's just got a drop more green in it. And this one, Closer Than You Might Belem, is just a little bit more blue toned. The last polish that I have to show you is called Tile Art to Warm Your Heart, and I love the name of this one. I think it's so cute. This is a really nice, beautiful, bright cobalt blue. It's really easy to work with. It's nearly opaque in just 1 coat, but I will be applying a second coat just to even it out a little bit. I like that OPI is kind of branching out a little bit from its classic reds and pinks and creams to some brighter colours as well. The second coat slightly deepens up that colour and it's fully opaque in 2 coats. I have compared it to Rich Girls and Po Boys, which is on the left side, which is a little bit lighter, and on the right side I have My Pal Joey, which is pretty much the same colour, but I feel like it's just 1 drop darker. I hope you enjoyed this live swatch and review video of the OPI Lisbon collection. I feel like the bottom 4 shades are just a little bit on the boring side, nothing too exciting, but the top 8 shades, they're really nice. OPI trying something different with some brights in their collections. I hope that you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.